Imagine what a post-apocalyptic world would look like in your head. The first thing you may think of is a desolate, barren world, with rubble that used to be buildings and skyscrapers scattered throughout. With a civilization collapsed, humanity is on the brink of extinction, and there is very little to no hope of a restored, peaceful world we once knew. Now, what would you think if I said there was something like a semi-post-apocalyptic world that can exist? That's impossible, at least outside the fictional stories within novels. That kind of world would be unthinkable. Well, the events of this year 2020 seem to have made quite a case that a semi-post-apocalyptic world can indeed exist. I don't need to tell you that the cause of the events that unfolded this year was none other than COVID-19, the disease that quickly became a worldwide pandemic in a matter of months. Lockdowns imposed on most countries, if not all. Highways deserted, the hustle and bustle within cities significantly reduced, and the collective hopes and dreams of returning to the pre-pandemic lifestyle ever diminishing. I don't need to tell you that none of us liked the direction the world was headed, that this can't be happening, that this must be a dream. 9 months later, we have eased somewhat back into pre-pandemic life. Restaurants available for dine-in, sports activities resuming, and schools opening. However, as winter arrives, we risk much greater transmission of the disease compared to March of this year. While there is a light at the end of this very dark tunnel in the form of a vaccine, this whole situation is, again, something that no one would have wanted to be in. Whether we come out of this winter in good health or not remains to be seen. As for me, personally, nothing out of the ordinary happened for the first 3 months of 2020, until the pandemic, of course. Then, it hit me what all the things I've taken for granted. Parties, concerts, movie theaters, even a gym. I took all these things, among others, for granted. There would be no way for me to have an enjoyable experience in any of these venues, even if a vaccine were made available to the public. Ever since lockdowns began, I spent a few minutes every day thinking of when we will be able to return to the normal world as we once knew it. I had no desire to engage in my hobbies. I had no desire for uploading content or streaming, even when I had 2 months worth of opportunities to do so. From this, you could say that my mental health suffered quite a blow. I knew that the lockdowns would eventually be lifted, but being in one to begin with was something I could not have thought of in a million years. So, what did I do during those 2 months of lockdown? Schoolwork for the most part, along with the occasional hanging out with friends on the weekend. Video games were the only thing that barely kept us out of boredom, and even then, playing video games for hours on end every day of the lockdown was an abhorrent idea. But that was all we could do. Nothing would be the same until we come back to campus the following semester, where we would be able to freely move about. It was not until the summer of this year following spring until things seemed to look up for me. If you watched my video regarding my past experiences of 2019, you may recall that one of my main issues was that I had yet to obtain an internship by that year's summer break, and that I felt absolutely defeated that it was the case. This time, I was lucky, very lucky considering the pandemic we are in, to net an internship close to home. I felt as if I was finally moving up in the world. The real world experience I have gained was valuable, to say the least. My job as an intern left me with little time for video games, let alone content creation. I was okay with that for the time being. In the meantime, I would simply look forward to big releases anticipated in the later months. Following the summer of this year into the fall semester, attending college was pretty much the same experience as it was pre-pandemic, with the exception of wearing a mask all day. Additionally, options were available to virtually attend classes online in cases of quarantine. Other than these changes, things went smoothly and without a major hiccup. No outbreak occurred, so we were able to enjoy a somewhat normal college life experience. The fall semester went well, but I can't say that my experience during those few months was also good. During that time, I was constantly anxious. I will be graduating soon, so I am glad for that, but there is the matter of what I want to do after that. Do I pursue further education or jumpstart my career? Where would be my next place to live? Will I ever be able to have some memorable experiences in the future like those I have had during college? If I'm not busy drowning in these thoughts, I am busy fulfilling deadlines on my schoolwork. It was mentally taxing. I felt as if I was looking through my planner so many times just to ensure that I didn't forget to study for an upcoming exam and that I didn't miss an assignment to complete. With the constant rotation of no less than 3 projects in a given month for me to stay on top of, there was no rest for the wicked, and I was wicked tired. Despite all this, I have managed to carve out a clear path on what choice I will make for my future. Good for me. My grades also turned out just fine as well. Also good for me. So, with that being the case, what would I make of the mindset of the my efforts being for not saying I had posed as another main issue from last year? Well, I did not go through a week of 24/7 studying just to fail any exam this time, so I think I can say, at least for now, that I have ditched that mindset. That's a step forward. Until I seem to have taken multiple steps backwards throughout the semester. With each passing week, it became harder for me to look forward to some weekend fun, assuming that something at all was planned for a given weekend. The pandemic definitely wasn't going anywhere, so gatherings were very limited. And it's not the same experience attempting to have a gathering online over Zoom. What was my solution for these restrictions? Not a fun one. I regressed back to what I usually did during the first 2 months of lockdown back in the spring. A few hours of schoolwork, a few hours of video games, and the rest of each day spent watching random videos on YouTube. I did occasionally upload to my channel during my spare time, but that doesn't really change how limited and boring my experience was these past few months. There is one other issue from last year I should touch upon now. Completing favors for other people is a bit of a weekly routine. I did depress myself over how it seemed that the people for whom I'd done favors are taking advantage of whatever generosity or kindness I have. Normally, I would wish that what I do for others would make me wanted by those same people. Since we are in the middle of a pandemic, and since I stopped looking forward to any enjoyable events that could happen on the weekend, I couldn't care less about having any favor reciprocated. Regardless, being asked for help or to provide something to others is something I should get used to, whether I like it or not, without wanting or needing anything in return. Of course, I believe it sucks that it would be hard for me to ask for help when I'm in need or when I'm looking for a shoulder to cry on, but that seems to be how it is these days. Oh well. And now, a month and a half following the end of the fall semester, here I am. I'm sitting here, still racking my brain over what other notable things stuck out to me this year. I find myself consistently arriving at the same conclusion that every event that would or would not normally happen is because of the pandemic. Everything seems to be connected to COVID-19. Why else are many establishments and other venues having to close their business until further notice? Why else are people falling ill at an alarming rate as we speak? Why else are we still wearing masks? If I were looking at this situation from the outside in, I would think that the pandemic took place in a semi-post-apocalyptic world. But clearly, humanity won't be going extinct anytime soon, and civilization is far from collapsing. It's just that we are not yet able to return to the pre-pandemic life anytime soon. In the meantime, what we can do is to keep moving forward, trying to enjoy our experiences no matter what situation the world is in. As for my channel, well, it's not likely I'll upload anything major until I get my hands on a next-gen console, specifically the PS5. It seems that both the PS5 and Xbox Series X had quite a few million units sold within their respective launch periods. It's quite frustrating and somewhat mind-boggling how Sony and Microsoft didn't attempt to produce more than just a few million consoles before next year. But what would I know? I'm not a developer or manufacturer of video game consoles. In any case, I've done some superficial research on the specs of both consoles. I read reports that while the Xbox Series X has the better specs, it is the PS5 that ultimately runs better. Whichever console had better overall performance was the main influencer on my decision for my next console. It's about time I start exploring popular exclusives on PlayStation's side anyways. Hopefully, consoles should be available sometime in January, but I wouldn't hold my breath. With all that being said, thank you very much for listening to what I had to say regarding my experiences of 2020. This is the part where I would say, here's to 2021 and the challenges that it would bring. Well, we know what 2020 brought to all of us, so I really cannot imagine the type of trouble 2021 would bring. But I believe we could all use some R&R and look forward to a more normal year. Have a good rest of the year, and stay healthy.